Hello everyone, my name is Swagbastian, and welcome back to Hytale Together. Stories are always fun to theorize about. Hytale's story is no different. This video is going to be a casual explanation of my Hytale story theory, but before I get into it, I want you to comment your theory down below or message me on the Hytale Together Discord server, and it could be featured in a future video. Now let's get into it. When theorizing about a story, I like to take the information that's given and use only that, which results in me being wrong most of the time, but it's just a consequence of my writing style, and it doesn't really matter since this is just for fun. I think good stories can work well without a lot of moving parts or information that the audience needs to remember. I also like starting my theories at the very beginning, a very good place to start, so that there's a good foundation for the rest of the theory. By very beginning, I mean the literal beginning of the universe or multiverse's creation. This theory is going to be the full picture. I'm not going to tell you something that's not actually true just for the sake of the story, simply because there's no point since it's not my story. Deceiving the audience is a pretty common writing tactic just for suspense and stuff. Now that the disclaimers are out of the way, here's the theory. Before creation, there was power. It first created the rules of the universe and then the embodiment of good, which it named Gaia. Because good cannot exist without evil, the embodiment of evil came into being without being created. Since it wasn't created, it didn't have a name, so it named itself Varen. Gaia had the power of all the elements: fire, water, earth, wind, and lightning. With these powers, she created the universe and then life in it. She eventually settled on her home planet, which she named Orbis. All was peaceful for many years. Varen only had the power of the void, which had the sole ability of corrupting that which is good. Upon coming into being, he knew of Gaia, his antithesis, and the nature of his existence. He was enraged by the fact that Gaia was the rightful ruler of the universe and that he was only there because she was created. He set his mind on recreating the universe in his own vision and ruling it himself after destroying Gaia and all that she had made. He corrupted the first planet he arrived at and named it Nexus because it was his homeworld and the starting place of his universal conquest. He then began conquering and corrupting the universe, planet by planet, amassing his army, all while being weakly drawn to his counterpart Gaia. After many years, Varen arrived at Orbis and began the war of good and evil. He grew his army even further by corrupting some of the inhabitants of Orbis before a final battle. Varen's forces and the creatures of Orbis fought fiercely until it seemed like the end for Gaia and the rule of good in the universe. In desperation, Gaia used the full force of her power to wipe out most of Varen's forces and transport him back to his homeworld. Gaia then fell into a deep slumber with no sign of waking back up. Despite the victory, the damage was already done. Orbis began to be slowly corrupted, and the souls of those lost in the war roamed the land because they could not rest. The once good Scarix became bloodthirsty savages. The corrupted humans moved to the Outlands to plot the destruction of the good creatures in a faraway place. Suddenly, some shape-shifting aliens show up and start messing with everything.
Bruh, bruh.
That's us, the players. To be honest, I didn't really have a theory for anything past the beginning of the game, but I do have some ideas, so let's speculate. Funnily enough, I made the theory that you just heard long before avatars were confirmed, so I had to retcon what the players are, and I even changed some of the theory while writing the script, but I can't be bothered to think of anything better and remake the whole thing, so that's all you get since I know I'm absolutely wrong about most of it anyway. Disregarding that tangent, let's actually get down to speculating. Avatars could be birthed from that power that created Gaia, since there would be a massive good-evil power imbalance after the war, given that Gaia's in a coma and Varen would be raging at all his subordinates back on his home planet. Avatars would be good to offset Gaia's weakened state, but they can't all be good, so I do have another theory about that. Although Gaia is the embodiment of good and Varen is the embodiment of evil, I think both have the potential to be good or evil since they have a little bit of their opposite in them, since it's literally impossible for anything or anyone to be completely good or completely evil. It's the same principle as yin and yang. Opposites need each other to exist, but they also can't completely be one or the other. If this is true, then avatars would be the same way. Although they are born as good, they have the potential for both. This also relates to a potential ending I have in mind for the story. Instead of, or after violently defeating Varen, he could have a change of heart or ideals and morph into something more human and less eldritch. He would also gain Gaia's powers while keeping the power of the void, and Gaia would gain the power of the void while keeping her original powers. They could each be half good and half evil, with the avatars being the power balancers of the good and evil in the universe. And everyone could live happily ever after, yay! Now let's get on to the topic of branching paths in the Hytale story. What I just described could be one of the many potential stories, and I'm thinking it would be good as a good or neutral ending. It would be really cool if the player character had some amount of agency in the story, but that would be a lot of work, so I don't mind if the story doesn't allow for that. A true good ending could be one where Varen ends up in a coma and we wake Gaia up, and a true evil ending could be where we successfully help Varen corrupt the entire universe and lock Gaia up, since she can't be killed. If the writers want to make the story based on my theory go even further, then they could create some kind of disturbance in the force that causes an imbalance in universal power, which causes one or more gods to be created to compensate. That could happen as many times as they want, which would be a source for practically infinite characters in a fantasy setting or even a futuristic one if they want to go that far with it. The only issue with that method of progressing the story would be that it would always revolve around the new god or gods that were just created. If they ever go that route and want to end the story, then it would logically reach the point where all the gods would have to fight against the power that created them, or maybe there's an evil power that created the imbalance that's been giving everyone so much trouble, and even Varen in the very beginning. If they actually didn't want to end it there, then they could just keep going up the chain and introducing more and more omnipotent gods until they eventually reach themselves. But then there's the question of who created them. Whatever, by that point it would be pure insanity, and I don't expect them to ever go that far anyway. Basically, any story can go on forever as long as you keep making stuff up. I jumped the gun on talking about the endings and skipped over what happens between the beginning and the end of the game, so let's talk about that right now. I'm expecting that you'll have to fight bosses on the good or evil side depending on what route you want to go, with Varen being the final boss of the evil side and, I don't know, Senator Armstrong Kweebec on the good side. Before that, you'll probably have to traverse the Alterverses to get to Varen's home planet if you want the good ending. I think the evil ending will have quite a short story and end without you traveling to any other Alterverses since you just stayed on Orbis, but I don't know, maybe in the future you'll be able to start the game somewhere else besides Orbis. Anyway, that's it for my Hytale story theory. Again, please tell me yours in the comments below or message me on the Hytale Together Discord server for a chance to be featured in a future video. I'm sure you can tell from this video that I'm super excited to experience the story of Hytale, and I can't wait to play it. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for spending your most valuable resource, the time in your life, on watching this video. My name is Swagbastian, and have a good one.